welcome to Hitch and Farm Working Horses. I'm Ellie and this is Mike.
And today we're going to do a little video and just it outlines the breaking training that we're doing for our horses to become workhorses.
We currently have 6 horses in for training to become workhorses, and I'll mostly be using video from that to illustrate how our training process works. This is Mickey, he's a 10-year-old cob. We also have Pearl, who is an Irish draft mare, and a Shetland pony called Grace, who will all feature in this video. All of the horses start with a good basis of connection work. I'm not going to explain this to you because it's basically a library of information. The best place to look this up is to look up Warwick Schiller. He has an excellent catalogue of videos on how to do this. Instead, we'll be focusing on the more workhorse specific methods of training. So here is Pearl. She's just started her training. She's done her connection work and she's learning how to stand still to be harnessed. Harness is usually introduced after doing desensitisation with a dumpy bag. So the horse is used to having large things over the top of them, all around them, around their back legs, so that nothing comes as too much of a shock. They are also given time to get used to their harness as they move, all the noises it makes and where it applies pressure, before long lining or any kind of pulling is introduced. This is a deliberately slow and calm process, which I've sped up a little bit here so you can see it. Standing still is one of the most important skills that a workhorse can have. If you think you're going to be hitching and unhitching, you're going to have your head down by their heels, you don't want a horse that's going to be moving around because you don't want to be losing a finger to a piece of chain. And here is Mickey going through the same part of that process.
So how long has he been here now? A week? 2 weeks? 2 weeks tomorrow. No, it's 2 weeks tomorrow.
This whole process, from getting a horse from scratch up to working standard, takes approximately 6 to 12 weeks in total, though this varies with the needs of the horse and the needs of the owner. A process done quickly can be undone quickly as well, in our experience. So here's Grace, the Shetland pony. She has a little bit of sensitivity to her harness, so Mike is going to be working with her today in order to try and make her more comfortable. He's going to be adding a long line through her breeching so that he can make it move as she moves around in the same way that it would when it's on a carriage. With workhorses, it's really important to remember that when they're pulling things, they're going to get a lot of vibration coming through their harness and a lot of different noises moving around behind them. And you need to think about making sure that they're comfortable with this before hitching anything on. So if you watch this closely, as Grace moves off and the long line comes into action, she gets a little bit cross about her harness being there and her facial expression changes. This session will end when she begins to relax with the movement of the harness. This only took around 10 minutes before she got completely relaxed with her harness, and that eliminates a problem later on. We have noticed with the setup at our new farm that the horses who are in for training seem to like watching the other horses go through their training, which is really interesting. Even though Mickey is already happy in his harness and the movement with his harness, It's important to do a little bit of extra desensitisation just to make sure that there's no problems later on. And as you can see, he is completely unconcerned by the noise and the movement of the bag, which bodes well. Although obviously when you are working your horses, you do everything to avoid anything touching their back legs, it's important to remember that they may step over their traces, they may get caught up to by a swingle tree, or if something comes unhitched, it might hit them in the heels. And so you want them to be really comfortable with things all around their back legs. These kind of small problems happen all the time, and it's important to make sure that they are just small problems and don't become an emergency situation. Although all the horses go through the same process, it's important to remember that they won't all reach the same goals at the same speed. You have to accommodate their personality and their individual needs. Next comes lateral flexion work, which teaches your horse to work with pressure and release and prepares them well for long lining.
Very obvious. Very obvious pressure release there. Do you think she's got like a stiff muscle or something?
That's an anxiety release, so it's probably the fact that she knows that the session's finishing on the point.
Belly rub, do you?
Once your horse is long lining well, you can introduce the tyre. While we long line outside of the round pen as part of the training, we only long line inside the round pen with the tyre, as if it hits any obstacles, it can bounce and cause the horse's upset. You can see here that Mike doesn't carry the reins in his hands while he's hitching up, and the reason for this is as you move around hitching up the tyre, you can accidentally give the horse signals to its mouth, which you don't want. As Pearl is in the round pen for this part of the process, she's completely safe even if she does move off. Outside of the round pen, you're going to want to keep the reins with you, but you need to be careful not to move them around too much. It's important to keep sessions short and finish on a good note so that your horse goes away thinking that he's had a nice time. If you're intending to use a voice command to teach your horse to stop, it's important that this is incredibly consistent and you don't use different words. And when the horse is standing still, that you aren't giving them any further signals. Pearl goes out and does any chain harrowing, she's also going to get a bit of further desensitisation with the swingle tree. Obviously being very careful that it doesn't give her a bad experience.
So today we're out sidelining, so we do this with a lot of our youngsters, and what we've got is a young gelding here that's in for training, so he's tied to Dolly just by his head collar, and what it is just to give him an idea of what's going to happen in a week or so's time. He's going to be hitched up.
And what we're actually trying to do here is give him confidence from the other horses. So the other horses are used to this kind of work, they have no problem with it whatsoever, and he will see that they are not stressed by it at all and hopefully take that into his own head. So here you can see Pearl has moved on from being sidelined on the chain harrow. She's now working as a pair on the log, and that is Mickey. He's not actually attached there, he is just interested in what is going on. And they will do each different job, so say logging and chain harrowing, with a confident partner before they move on to doing it on their own. So here you can also see that we've got Pearl's owner involved in the training, so she's coming down to learn how to work with Pearl with all of our commands, and this is a really important step to make sure that when they get home everyone is on the same page. Pearl's owner would also eventually be able to drive her, so you can see here that she's also doing sideline work on the carriage before being hitched on as a pair. If you would like more information on how the sidelining works and how we tie it, you need to check out our previous video on how to train horses for carriage driving. Pearl was the quickest in this instance to finish her training. Here is the end result. She is now working as a single, on a sledge, a harrow and on a log. And now it's just up to her owner to take her home and put some more hours on the clock. If you've made it this far, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit like and subscribe for us.